Hello people, I'm NeuroComicBookGamer. Today I'm going to be talking about what I think is the best origin story in all of comics, because there are a lot of great origin stories out there like Batman Year One, Daredevil, The Man Without Fear, and a bunch of great origin books. But none of those are really the best in my opinion. They're great, but my favorite isn't even from either of the big two. It's from Devil's Due Publishing. It's written by Brandon Yerwa, and it's called Snake Eyes Declassified. Now, Snake Eyes is a character from G.I. Joe. I grew up on G.I. Joe. Snake Eyes was always my favorite G.I. Joe character. I thought he was so badass and awesome, and I loved watching the cartoons and animated movies, playing with the toys. And then when I discovered the comics, that just made everything so much better, because it sort of elevated it to a next level where there's just such better storytelling, cool art, and you had legends like Chuck Dixon writing some great stories. And through this, we got Snake Eyes Declassified, which is, in my opinion, the best origin story in all of comics. Like most characters in comics, Snake Eyes does have multiple origin stories, but Snake Eyes Declassified is the best one in my opinion for multiple reasons. It does a lot of great stuff, like blending classic origin stories like the Larry Hama stuff with new stuff, and I loved seeing that. And we also get a look behind the mask, because prior to this, we didn't get a whole lot of seeing Snake Eyes prior to him really being Snake Eyes. We still don't learn his name or things like that. It's not like they revealed everything. It's not like with the Wolverine origin story, the Wolverine origin book we got, where we got way too much, where we learned literally every single thing about Wolverine. It kind of got rid of the mystery and ruined some things with Wolverine that like I would have preferred not to know. It doesn't do that. It doesn't show you like every single thing about Snake Eyes. Like, you know everything about him from birth till now. Like, it's not like that. But they do reveal a lot of good stuff that we didn't know before behind the scenes. Like, we see that he is a guy with blonde hair and blue eyes. He's got a family. He has a twin sister and his dad and his mom, and he loves them a lot. He was a Vietnam War veteran. He was an Army Ranger. Now, they don't specifically mention Vietnam, but they do say Southeast Asia, so you can narrow it down. This origin book did exactly what an origin book should do. It showed you things that you did not know about the character before, and what really shapes them and turns them into the character you know today and really love. That's what an origin book should do. It should show you how this character was shaped into who they are today. And Snake Eyes Declassified does that. It even shows us how the rivalry between Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow really happened, which to me is one of the best rivalries in all of just fiction in general. It's great, the Snake Eyes Storm Shadow rivalry. It's so classic, and I love seeing it in this book. So I'm going to be spoiling stuff for Snake Eyes Declassified. I'm not going to be going over every single detail that happens in it, but I am going to be spoiling stuff. So if you haven't read it, you definitely should before watching this video. If you have any interest in it, you should definitely read Snake Eyes Declassified. It's an amazing book, my favorite origin story, but it's not easy to find. Anyways, let's start talking about this. So we get a great scene between Snake Eyes and his father talking about basically why he joined the military in the first place, because he went on his tour of duty over to Vietnam, then he came back, he survived. His family thought, oh, he's going to be here, he's going to go to officer school or something like that, but no, he told them that he was going back, he's being redeployed for a second tour of duty in like a week. And so him and his father sit down and have a talk, because he's going back over there and they're really afraid for their son's life. His father tells him that he's going to see things that no man ever should, and that he needs to keep his faith. And then Snake Eyes says, and I'm going to quote the book here, quote, "I don't know about my faith. It seems like the world doesn't have much faith in itself right now. You always tell me to do my part, to look out for the little guy. That's what I'm trying to do. When I watch the news and read the paper, I don't see people surviving on anything more than sheer luck. That might be all I have, too." Then his father says, "Is that right? Okay, then. If you're heading into that jungle armed with nothing but luck, then I wish you all the luck in the world. Luck runs out quick, though. You step up to gamble one more time, and the next thing you know, Snake Eyes," end of the line. End quote. I think that's a great quote. It lays it out right there why Snake Eyes fights, why he joined the military, to stick up for the little guy, because of the morals that were instilled in him by his father. And I really like seeing that, and we also sort of got a nice way of seeing how he got the name Snake Eyes. And it's cool to see that before he was even Snake Eyes, before any tragedy or anything happened, he wanted to fight for the little guy. He wanted to be a hero. Nothing bad happened to him that caused him. His parents weren't shot in an alley. His Uncle Ben wasn't shot. Nothing caused him to go, hey, oh wow, I'm being forced in this position where I need to do this. He didn't. Nothing like that happened. No, he chose to go and serve his country and fight for the little guy, and I really liked seeing that. We also get to see that he does face tragedy after choosing all that. Like, his first tour of duty in Vietnam, all of his squad was killed except for him and Tommy Arashikage. And then his second tour of duty, his entire squad was killed again, except for him, Tommy Arashikage again, and Stalker, who's another G.I. Joe member. So we see that just doom and gloom follows him around. But then he gets injured on his second tour when it's just a bloody LZ. They're trying to get to the landing zone. Snake Eyes ends up getting tagged. Storm Shadow saves him, drags him to the helicopter. But because he got injured, he gets honorably discharged because he did all he could. He served his country, and now it's time for him to go home. He got injured in the line of duty. So he's sitting there at the airport. We get a really sad scene of him sitting there, and we see all the other families and the military guys going back to their families. And it's like, okay, it's kind of happy for these people, but so sad for Snake Eyes because he's watching everyone else go home while he just waits for his family to come pick him up. Then the general taps him on the shoulders and says, I'm sorry to tell you this, but your family was in a head-on collision with a drunk driver, and there were no survivors. Everyone died. And that's just a really tragic moment for him. Later on, months down the road, we see that Snake Eyes finds someone else who is as angry at the world as he is. He's got a tragedy too, and so they're both these angry dudes that are mad at the world for what's happened to them, for all the bad stuff that's happened to them. So they end up being sort of Robin Hood / A-Team type deal, and they go around being vigilantes and stuff, but they're not doing the greatest stuff. Some of their stuff is a little sketchy and not that great, but the Snake Eyes draws the line when he sees that this guy, his partner, I'm just going to call him Joe because he doesn't have a name at this point, but later on in the story it's revealed that he's someone else. But anyways, this guy Joe, we see that he goes and he tries to kill this judge because this judge wrongly persecuted his brother, which caused his brother to go drunk driving and smash into someone head on and die, and that was Snake Eyes' family. And so this guy is like, hey, this judge caused both of our problems, we should kill him. If it weren't for him, our families would be okay. Snake Eyes like, nope, I'm not about that. He leaves. And then later we see a scene at the cemetery where Snake Eyes' parents are buried and his twin sister, and he just basically goes, yeah, I'm done with this. I'm not going to let the past define me. I'm going to move on. This is the last time I'm going to be here talking to you guys because I can't let the past define me, which I really like seeing because he sees how the past just drove this guy Joe crazy. It made him go off the deep end where he's willing to break into someone's house and murder them because of how much the past had just defined him. And so I really like seeing that because we see a lot of heroes where the past is what defines them, like Bruce's parents dying in that alley. We see a lot of things like that, but Snake Eyes is like, no, I'm not going to let that happen. So he ends up going to Japan where Tommy Arashikage is because, like I said before, he served 2 tours of duty with Tommy Arashikage in Vietnam, and so he was his best friend. They were actually really good friends. The only person Snake Eyes really even ever talked to was Tommy Arashikage. And so Tommy Arashikage told him when he got out of the military, he's like, hey, come to my family business in Japan and you'll be a part of the family. It's fine. You're like a brother to me. And so then that's where Snake Eyes goes next. He goes to Japan to join the family business. Snake Eyes goes to Japan. We see that there are a lot of things happening here. There's so much that heats up in Japan because this is where the Arashikage clan is. So this is where Storm Shadow / Tommy Arashikage, his uncles, run this clan, and they both end up training together. Well, first off, Storm Shadow's already completed his training, but because he spent so much time fighting in Vietnam and outside the dojo walls, they're like, yeah, you should be retrained, but it'll be easy for you. Storm Shadow isn't too happy about having to be retrained, but he's fine with it, so him and Snake Eyes train together. And then we see that Snake Eyes slowly becomes a better student than he is, and his uncles prefer Snake Eyes better and over him, and he's not too happy about this. And slowly over time, we see that Storm Shadow just gets really bitter and angry because he is the one that's supposed to be the future of the Arashikage clan, but they choose Snake Eyes over him. They want Snake Eyes to be it, not Tommy, and Tommy just gets really mad. We see brothers driven apart here, brothers in arms that are driven apart, and we get a really great moment to where they're doing a training exercise in front of all the masters, to where Storm Shadow has a sword and Snake Eyes is on the ground just kneeling with a candle on his head. And the exercise is you have to take a sword and snuff the flame before the other ninja, whoever is sitting down there, can catch it. So before Snake Eyes can catch the sword, Storm Shadow has to try to snuff the flame with the sword. That's the goal. So Snake Eyes' goal is to stop him from snuffing the flame, and Storm Shadow's goal is to snuff the flame with the sword. At first, it appears that Snake Eyes wins the exercise because we see that Snake Eyes catches the sword. But then Hardmaster punches the ground, and we see that the sword, we see that the candle comes apart. So Snake Eyes didn't catch the sword till it was on its return, on its way down to the candle. And so everyone's like, oh wow, Storm Shadow won, Snake Eyes lost. And then it turns out that Hardmaster reveals, quote, to suppress your own skill before those who would judge you, to love your sword brother enough to help him save face in front of his family, that is the way of the true honorable Arashikage ninja. Things are never as simple as they appear. End quote. So I love seeing that right there, that Snake Eyes loves Storm Shadow enough, his brother, he loved him enough that he would just pretend like he was the worst ninja, that he was worse at the training exercise to help him save face in front of his family so he wouldn't be judged, he wouldn't be berated about it. I love that moment. It shows how much Snake Eyes cared and valued their friendship. After all this, we get a great moment between Tommy and Snake Eyes to where they just have this conversation of Snake Eyes trying to ask Tommy if there's anything he can do to salvage their friendship before it completely dies, because right now Tommy hates him and Snake Eyes is trying to just get his friend back, his one brother in arms that he still has, his best friend. And we get some great dialogue here to where, quote, Snake Eyes says, "Please quit trying to turn this into a competition, Storm Shadow. You make it sound like I have a choice. I don't know what else to do. It seems like everyone's already decided that I don't matter anymore. You're the apt pupil, the bright shining hope of the clan. Congratulations. You wanted a family that adores you, and now you have one." And Snake Eyes said, "Should I step aside? Is that what it will take to prove that you're still my best friend? Say the word and I'll pack and leave tonight." End quote. So right there, again, it's some great dialogue showing how much Snake Eyes loves his brother in arms, how much he does want him to still be his friend, because this is his one friend that has survived, that's been with him through thick and thin. He's been with him through 2 tours of Vietnam. He gave him a place to stay when he had no family or anywhere to go, and always cared about him. Tommy Arashikage, even, I forgot to mention this earlier, but like 6 months after everything had happened with his family, Tommy tracked him down. He had been tracking him down the whole time trying to find him, but Snake Eyes was hard to find, and he went and found him and told him, "Hey, you have a place with me and my family." So these guys, like, Tommy means a lot to Snake Eyes. They're best friends. Later on, we see that outside of the compound walls, there's a guy named Zartan, who, if you know G.I. Joe, you know who he is. He's sitting out there, and he's ready to assassinate Snake Eyes, because Joe, the guy that I talked about earlier, that Snake Eyes' partner when they were vigilantes, that guy hired Zartan to kill Snake Eyes because he wanted his revenge. He's still mad at him for giving up on their sort of vigilanteism. So he goes and he's about to kill him. He's using this bow and arrow that tracks people through walls or whatever. It tracks onto their heartbeat and like their breathing pattern and everything like that. But we see that Snake Eyes having a conversation with Hardmaster. Hardmaster is teaching him things, and he shows him how to mimic heartbeats and breathing patterns. And he asks him, "Can you recognize which heartbeat I'm doing right now?" And Snake Eyes is like, "Nah, I've got no clue." And he tells him, "It's your own." And so that sets it up to where he fires off the arrow, and it ends up killing Hardmaster. And everyone thinks it's Snake Eyes because, I mean, everyone thinks it's Storm Shadow, because Storm Shadow is the best archer there. He's an insane archer. He can hit things without having to see them, because he has something called the ear that sees, which is where he can just hear things so good that he can shoot them. But also, we see that the Soft Master spots Storm Shadow running away when all of this happens, but it turns out Storm Shadow is chasing the guys that he sees did it, so he's going after them. So that's why Storm Shadow has to leave, because everyone believes that Storm Shadow killed the Hard Master, killed his uncle. So Storm Shadow gets sort of expelled out of the clan, like he runs away because he knows that he's sort of framed by this, and he's trying to hunt down these guys that did it. Snake Eyes leaves because he believes pretty much that he is a cancer, because another family of his has been killed. The 2 units he served in on his 2 tours of duty died. His actual family, his mother, father, and twin sister died, and now this other guy that he sort of looked up to as a father figure, his teacher, the Hardmaster, has died. So Snake Eyes and his brother, another member of his family, is just gone. His brother in arms, Tommy Arashikage, Storm Shadow, is gone. So Snake Eyes is just kind of, he realizes he's lost pretty much all semblance of family he's ever had, so he leaves, and he believes it's his fault pretty much, that he's sort of a cancer to it. So later we see that Snake Eyes is just sitting in the woods being a countryman, and that's how he's living life. He's hunting rabbits and he's running around with a wolf and things like that. But then the military comes to him and they're like, "Hey, we got this new special unit and we think you'd be a great part of it." It's Stalker who's there with him, who is the only other guy to survive from Snake Eyes' last tour of duty in Vietnam. So Stalker goes to him and Snake Eyes like, "Yeah, I'm done with all this. I'm gonna stay away from people. Everyone I go near dies." Basically, that's why he doesn't want to join this new unit. Then Stalker says to him, quote, "I used to know this guy who had been brought up proper by his folks. He was big on the basics, looking out for the little guy, treading the right path, protecting the helpless, all that junk. If you happen to run into that guy, send him my way, because I don't know what happened to him." end quote. And I love that little speech right there from Stalker, basically saying, stop wallowing in pity and get back to how you used to be. I knew this great man that you used to be, and now you're just wallowing in pity. Yeah, crappy stuff has happened to you, but you need to get over it. There are still the little guy to fight for. There's still people out there that need your help, and you're like the best that can do it. I love seeing that. And so Snake Eyes, because of that little speech by Stalker, ends up joining G.I. Joe. So then we get the origin of Snake Eyes and Scarlet, how Snake Eyes fell in love with Scarlet because they're some of the original members of G.I. Joe. They go to the base, the pit, the famous G.I. Joe base, where they're all there, and Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow sort of fall in love, like love at first sight, and they like talking to each other and everything. And that's one of the few people, another person that Snake Eyes will actually talk to, because again, he's very reclusive. He's not someone that really likes to talk to people, but he likes talking to Scarlet, and so they become sort of good friends a bit, and then they go on their first mission, and Snake Eyes and Scarlet are in this helicopter where the helicopter starts going down, and they're with a couple other G.I. Joes in that helicopter as well, because they said they never installed the sand filters on the intakes, so it caused the helicopter to start crashing. And what happens is everyone jumps out of the helicopter. They're fine except for Snake Eyes and Scarlet, because Scarlet gets caught on the helicopter. Part of her gets caught on the helicopter, so she can't get out. Snake Eyes stays to cut her loose, to cut her uniform loose so she can get out. The helicopter ends up crashing. Fire explodes, and fire gets on Snake Eyes' face. He ends up getting burned, and so badly that's how he gets scarred, and that's why he wears the mask, and also it like messed up his vocal cords, so that's why he can't talk. And then we see they're like, okay, we gotta go back, this is not good, mission failed. And then we see Snake Eyes say, put CM in the sand. He wrote that, which means Charlie Mike, which means continue the mission. So Snake Eyes continues on and goes and fights and continues the mission, and then months later we see that once he recovers from his full injuries, he still joins G.I. Joe and he's still fighting. Now, some people might be thinking that there's no character development in this book, because if you look at the beginning and at the end, he's fighting for the same exact reasons. It's because of the morals that his parents instilled in him. So, oh, nothing changed there. But if you look at the book, there's more to it than that. Snake Eyes has been through so much throughout this book, so much tragedy. He went through losing a unit in his first tour in Vietnam. Everyone but him and Tommy died. And then in his second tour in Vietnam, he lost his unit again. Everyone died except for Stalker and Storm Shadow, so Tommy Rashikage, and then his family dies, so his mother, his father, and his twin sister, they all die, but Tommy is still there for him, his best friend. And then he goes to the Rashikage clan, and the person he looks up to as his mentor, he dies, the Hard Master, and then the one guy that's been there for him throughout all of it, Tommy Rashikage, is now his greatest enemy, and he leaves, and he despises him. So we see that he's been through a lot, and then on top of all that, he still decides to fight for G.I. Joe, and then he loses his face because it gets so hideously scarred. He doesn't want anyone to see it, and he loses his ability to talk. But guess what? He still fights through all that, and I think that's a big part of his character, showing the mental fortitude he has to not let the past define him, to keep going. Also, the fact that he allows himself to still be open and have friends and things like that, to actually allow himself to fall in love with Scarlet, because you think at this point, with all the terrible stuff that's happened to him, he would just push Scarlet away and be like, nope, not gonna be with anyone else, nope, not gonna have it. All my family died, anyone that's even felt remotely like family, anyone around me, they die or they become my greatest enemy, and I'm just done. But we see that he doesn't allow the past to affect him, which I really like seeing. That's like a big theme in this book, is the fact that the past does not define you, and I really like that, because we see with Snake Eyes, he doesn't let it define who he is as a character. He keeps going, he keeps fighting the good fight, doing what's right, and he, I really love that. And I think that's a lot different than most origin books, where we see that the past is exactly what defines them, like every tragedy that's happened defines who they are. So it's interesting to see that with a character where that's not what defines them. But anyways, yeah, this is my favorite origin story in all of comics, Snake Eyes Declassified. Please let me know in the comments below, what is your favorite origin story in all of comics and why? And if you haven't read Snake Eyes Declassified, let me know what you think of the book. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.